I thought I'd have a little bit more time in the city, but I think
You staying here?
I'm there.
Ooh, is that good? Holy smokes. Jeez. Hi, everybody. Hi.
Yeah, I think.
My name is Allie Hamilton. I'm so excited to be doing this today. At least I think it's excitement. It might be anxiety.
You're doing awesome.
But I think it's excitement. I think the Acon folks chose me for this because I'm a high school English teacher, so I speak in front of people all the time. But it's so cool to be in front of a room full of people who are actually paying attention. But jokes aside, I think they chose me because storytelling is a huge part of my life. It was a big focus of my undergrad studies and currently great focus of my master's studies in education. I've always been fascinated by the ways we tell stories and the stories that we tell. And we have with us today some folks who are involved in the digital side of the Wynonna Earp story. Before I introduce them, I have one more thing. I'm from the west coast of Canada, from Vancouver, and yeah. And over there, before we have an important event or a talk like this, we always acknowledge the territory that we're on, because for thousands of years before us and before Canada existed, there were Indigenous people living here, and it's part of reconciliation for us to acknowledge that. So I just want to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat people, the Seneca people, and also most currently the Mississaugas of Credit River. And I feel grateful to be on this land with you and to be here working and playing. So thanks. Okay. First we have Christin Hanly. Christin has been working in film and television for 20 years, since you were 5? And has worked in just about every facet of production. Some of her credits include Fargo, Damnation, Tin Star, and of course, Wynonna Earp. She is the writer of Purgatory Case Files, the co-writer of Yarn Text, and is the script coordinator at Wynonna Earp. Also, we have Jarrett Sherman. Jarrett is the president and co-founder of Digital Howard, an award-winning digital studio that helps producers, filmmakers, and broadcasters build audiences by extending their shows to digital platforms. From game shows to kid shows, from beautifully crafted arts documentaries to kick-ass primetime dramas, Digital Howard has successfully worked across most genres with the same guiding principle: feed the fans first. I'm gonna come over here for the question part. First, I guess, like, when I think of what Digital Howard does, I think of the Hotsblog, I think of Purgatory Case Files, and I think of the Yarn Text. But there's a little bit more than that. Can you kind of take us through exactly what you folks do?
So, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate being here. Digital Howard has been around for a few years, and we specialize in helping producers or filmmakers or broadcasters take a show and do something more for the fans, basically. Engage the fans, maybe when the show is not on or between seasons or what have you. In some cases, during the show. So it changes depending on what show it is and who the broadcaster is and who the audience is. So we've done everything from like a live play along to a game show, so you can play with the game show in real time.
Mm-hmm.
We've done this art documentary on a group of 7. We've done sort of a beautiful thing that we flew you through the landscape and took you to where the actual paintings were created out in the wilds. So it just depends, and it's all sort of like what's going to be the most appropriate, and like you said, what's going to resonate with them, and that's kind of the way we approach.
Okay, Christin, where do you come in?
Sorry. I'm the script coordinator on the show, so I get to work with Emily and the whole entire team throughout the season. And then when we have something fun like the Purgatory Case Files, I'm kind of the go-between between Emily and the show to make sure that all the stories kind of line up and everything makes sense in the universe. Mm-hmm. And I also got to write with Jarrett, which was really fun. And I think that's, yeah.
you keep us straight, and you keep us aware of canon and respectful of it, and not make mistakes with it.
I
Just
do have
amazing writing.
extensive Excel sheets. Is this true?
You don't even know. Excel makes me happier than it should. And I have, it's something that I've been tracking because it's been in my head, but we've been finding that there's just, like, as we continue with the seasons, there's more and more that goes on with the show that, we'll have a reference to something in season 1, and we'll need to know exactly what the person's name was or what prop they used. And so that sort of developed into this huge document that I keep.
Okay. Yeah, I think they mentioned on the Fans of Color panel that there had been a picture of Doc's wife and how they're going to deal with that. She said is interesting. So you are the one that's keeping track of that?
It's interesting, yeah.
Okay.
Nice try, Allie. Yeah, we keep track of things like that. So we have a really great production team. So it's not just me keeping track of that. It's also the script supervisor and the props, head of props, and the art department. So everybody's kind of keeping track of everything. And so it all kind of comes together at that point.
Okay. Jarrett, how do you decide what you think is going to work for a certain audience? I mean, obviously, what you're going to do for a kid's show or an art documentary is quite different than what you're going to do for us. And then how do you pitch that?
So the process for us, the process is typically, when a show comes to us, it's absorb as much as we can about that show. I mean, it's trickier when it's a brand new show like Winona, so we can't really, there's nothing to look at other than maybe some scripts or some designs. So we'll read everything we can read.
Mhm.
We'll watch or look at pictures and see everything we can see. And then we'll do sort of, like in the case of Winona, we'll try and understand who we think the audience is for a brand new show. And we'll sort of break it down into what areas of interest could be, and what sort of online activities could be. And then we just start brainstorming. Then it's just like, okay, well, what could be interesting? What could be, this show touches sci-fi, it touches Western, there's a drama element, there's a love interest, there's a love triangle in the season 1. So all that stuff. So it's like all these areas that are of interest, where's the best place for us to play? And so for season 1, it was, we want to help the show get to season 2. That was really our goal.
Yeah.
It was like, here's this brand new show. It's been greenlit. We want this audience to come to the show and learn about these characters and become invested in these characters, and then help them get to season 2. And so I can just walk you through sort of.
There's some visuals, so I think we'll look at those now, and you can kind of show us what they did in each season 1 and season 2.
Season 1 and season 2.
Okay.
So season 1, the goal was like, there's a whole bunch of characters. Nobody knows anything about them other than people who maybe read the comic books. So how do we make it so people can understand who's who and help get people, like, let people sort of play in the world more when the show's off? So we came up with this idea for the StoryVerse, was the first thing. So the StoryVerse, some of you may have seen it. It was on the sci-fi website or the space website. And the idea was you can navigate the season by episode, by character, and find out who is related to who and who did what to who and how they all relate. So we just broke every episode down and broke it apart, and so let you navigate by character, by moment, sort of pivotal plot moment. I don't know how many people really use this. It almost seems in retrospect to me that this was unnecessary because this fan base just came and they were just in. So, but we did it, and I, for however much it helped the show get to season 2, it was something for people to go to. And then at the end of the season, once we saw what was happening with social and sort of how active everybody was, we're like, okay, well, we can do more. We can take it a step further and maybe make it a little bit challenging. Given that this is sort of like a genre show, sci-fi kind of themes in it, maybe we can challenge the audience a little bit to play with, getting in, for example. So we thought Nicole was a great character in the first season she's sort of the audience in a way, that she's seeing all this crazy stuff happening and doesn't know what's going on. So we thought maybe we can do a blog where it's like her diary, but it's private, but she's trying to make sense of the season, of what just happened over the season. So we put together what we call the hot blog. It's The Road to Purgatory was her, and did any of you guys check this out?
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing that blew us away was the whole, I'm sure you all know where the password came from by now, but we just tried to pick the most random, obscure, we didn't want to hand it to anybody. In fact, the broadcasters wanted us to not have that, and we sort of fought to have a password protected thing to give a little bit of a challenge. And so we watched people crack the code and then tell everybody they cracked the code, but not share the code and protect the experience for everybody else. I've never seen that before. I mean, I've never seen a fandom do that. So we knew that we knew we had something very interesting with this audience. And so just watching everybody sort of react to it was fantastic for us. I mean, there's a little bit of some of the text that were inside. We got to create some media, and we did some fake, stories in the news, and just to try and beef the whole thing up and make it feel more real and connected. And we also ran social media for seasons 1 and 2. So we were sort of, during the season, we were the main voice on the official Twitter, I think the official Facebook. It just worked. I mean, you all know how well that all worked, and the tone was very, it was this fandom again. The tone was warm and loving and thoughtful and accepting and enthusiastic. And again, we were dancing around our office. We were just giddy with the response we were getting. And it got noticed, obviously. I mean, I'm sure you've all read the articles, season 1, season 2, and now season 3, that it just gets more and more about what a special fan base this is. And then this is just some of the stuff that we collected from you guys that we were just blown away. So that was great. And then for season 2, we thought, okay, so now we know now we have an idea of who this audience is and sort of what the interests are and capabilities are. And by the time this came around, we knew Way Hot was something that we wanted to focus on and have a good presence for. So we sort of whiteboarded, it could be this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do that. And then we also, this whole Purgatory Case Files thing we kept being drawn in that direction. That the truth is, when we just were toying with ideas, and we realized that in canon, Theodore Roosevelt created the Black Badge division. And so we thought, okay, so there's a historical, like Winona, the show, plays with historical fiction off Wyatt Earp and extrapolates that into story. And my partner and I, Daniel, he's a history buff, he's a history major. So we love all that sort of historical fiction and merging storylines. So we took the thread of Theodore Roosevelt and just went online to see what we could find. And he stumbled on this murder attempt, this assassination attempt that actually happened in 1912 with this guy who tried to kill Theodore Roosevelt he was schizophrenic, and he thought he was avenging the previous president, and he had to kill Theodore Roosevelt. And he went up and shot him point blank as he was about to go give a speech. And the speech was in his pocket, it was like a 50-page speech, in his glasses case, and it stopped the bullet, or it slowed the bullet. And the story is Roosevelt coughed into his hand to see if there was any blood. Did it penetrate the lung? And when it didn't, he went and gave the speech, and then he went to the hospital. So we thought that's an incredible story that we could play with. And when you've got an assassination attempt, what's the motivation? So the official motivation in history is that this guy was paranoid schizophrenic, and he wanted to avenge McKinley, I think. We thought, okay, that's the cover story. The real story is, and then we just went and sort of created this whole thing with Baron Samedi and the voodoo and all these elements that were rich and playful, and each one of them was sort of a rabbit hole on its own.
Yeah.
And so we just loved all that. And then came the question of what's the difficulty level? How challenging do we make this for people to get in, to find clues? So I think striking that balance, I'm sure everyone has an opinion. It was too easy, it was too hard. But we tried to put in fun challenges that were not going to be like giant roadblocks, but that were still going to be challenging. And then right away it occurred to us, we could have gone 10 times deeper in terms of planting things. But I think we released the very first piece of evidence was a shot of the floorboards, and the floorboards were removed. And I think, if memory serves, that was the clue. But we saw all these fans there's a red bead down there, and what does that mean? And it's all these things. You guys took it way further, and we tried to keep up, and we tried to modify. And
yeah, it was really cool to see how everybody interacted with it. For me, as the writer, these guys had this great idea, and they were like, okay, Christin, just go with it. And I'd be like, hey, can we do this? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, here it is. And it's fantastic. It was really cool for me to be able to have an idea, and they would turn it into something even better than my idea. And then to see the fans be like, this is this, and this over here means this, and this is connected here. And I saw the spreadsheets, and it was just like, I was blown away by the fan reaction.
I'll just give you a bit. You guys are familiar with this interface, but then there was this stuff.
I see my face all over.
But that one, the far one there, which was like, I don't even know where that manuscript came from, but then somebody was drawing designs on to try and interpret what the words were meaning in terms of pictograms, or like it was beyond what we had put in there. Incredible stuff.
Christin, you mentioned that Daniel's a history buff, so that like he gets a bit of his passion in this project, and I know that you get some influence from the Grateful Dead. Is there like ways that you put some of your interests and passions into this, or?
I don't know if you guys know this, but I like the show Wynonna Earp. I think for me it was also really interesting to dive into the history of it too, because we did learn that Alice, Teddy Roosevelt's daughter, was into the occult. So
Yes.
it was really cool to follow along that thread and kind of bring those elements in. I like organizing, and I like theories, and I really like supernatural stuff. So this was like the perfect storm of things for me. It was really fun.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was Chris. Every time Kristen would come back with a, how about this, how about that, we'd be like, oh my God, we didn't think about that. Amazing. And then also the connections into canon and all this stuff that was happening in the season, that because the season was sort of unrolling or being produced or edited as we were just putting this together, we didn't have the deep knowledge of what was happening in every episode at that point. So Kristen was able to take all this stuff and weave it into where the characters were at. It made it feel, especially all the way hot stuff, which really did relate to when we were going to release it and where they were at in the arc in the season. So
Yeah, it was fun to do all the way hot stuff. I don't know if you guys liked it.
I don't know. Well, I mean, that's interesting. I kind of had a question about that. Is that part of striking the balance between the people who just want way hot voicemails, as maybe I do, and then people that are like full on red string murder boarding and like looking in the code. Like, how do you strike that balance?
I think it was. It just kind of came about organically. Like I was so deep at that point into the world of season 2 that when these guys had the idea, I was able to bring that story into the world of Wynonna Earp. And we know how much everybody likes Way Hot. We know how much everyone loves the characters, and we just wanted to present them in our story, in our world. So we had to make sure we had enough of the day-to-day kind of texting and voicemails, but also to see that Hot was so deep into this case and see what she was doing with it.
Okay, great.
yeah, I think maybe just a couple more reactions from you guys, and then we can talk about what's next.
Talk about what's
At
next.
some point.
Maybe in a bit.
Yeah.
Can we talk more about why Earpers are so special? No, I mean I feel like we are, but are we? Like I know that your mandate is to create online engagement.
You are.
But is there a point when you realize like, no, this is something else?
Yeah, it was when we started to read the tweets in season 1 was really the time that was like, oh, this is not like every other thing we've done. This is something special. Just to hear what people were saying and the reactions to things or the comments, again, the thoughtfulness of the fan base interacting with each other. I haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
To this extent, certainly to this extent. And we just had a chat with the team at Sci-Fi the other day. We're just talking about talking about season 3. And I just asked the question, like, do you have any other fan base at Sci-Fi that's like this? And he said, no, there's nothing. There's one show that he would say is maybe also an engaged fan base, but not anything close. So they understand what a unique situation this is, the way the audience is responding to this show and these characters. And so I think everyone appreciates that.
Can you speculate on why we're special? I mean, it is interesting that even in planning this con, we've seen like so many people that are involved just want to come and speak about it. Like, you guys just wanted to be here, so here you are.
Yeah.
And I don't know if every other show has that. I think if people can be involved, it seems like they want to, but I don't know what's up with us.
I think there's other shows where you'll see a similar level of passion
Yeah.
from the fan base, but I don't think there's other shows where you see a similar level of warmth and respect and thoughtfulness towards each other. And one of our goals, by the way, is always, and I think this may be the only show where we've ever actually truly achieved it, and I don't even know that we achieved it, but the idea of getting the fans talking to each other. Because most shows, fans are fans, and you like it, and maybe you'll go read a couple tweets or something, but like to actually have these boards and this much Twitter activity and this much conversation and it's fans talking to fans. I mean, Wormhole Whisperers, we had nothing to do with that. That was fans deciding to band together and solve the Purgatory Case Files. I mean, for us, incredible.
So I guess like, we have maybe our kind of main text and then what you folks do. And then is it like, can we call the fandom like an additional text almost like that creates itself? Or is this just extreme that I said?
What do you mean text?
I guess something that can be interpreted. That the digital platform is an extension of the TV show, and then the fandom is an extension of that almost. That this is just as much a part of it as other things.
100%.
Yeah, the fandom is definitely as huge a part of it as every other aspect. And I think the thing that really makes the Earpers special is there's so many things, and I'm gonna cry. Everybody from the very start welcomed everybody else and made an effort to make it a warm and welcoming place, so that people who come into it in season 2 or season 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 still feel welcome and still feel like they can come to these cons and still feel like they can reach out to the people who were there from the start. Yeah. And I think that's what makes us all special, is that we really are trying to be kind to each other, and that started from the start. And I think that we're really lucky to have that.
Here's the thing about that is I think it's top down. I think it comes because from what I understand about the show and the crew and the cast, who I have some interaction with, but we're not like Christin in terms of being there every day. I understand that, there's a lot of TV shows that get produced where there's a lot of personalities and some of them are big and some of them are prickly but from what I understand on this show, from the top down, everybody is sort of like this fandom. Like everybody's very thoughtful and warm, and the talent doesn't have any airs, and everyone's just into making a great product. And I don't think any of you knew that season 1, but I think somehow that comes through, and I think everyone picks up on that. And I think that's because I was going to say, like, so where did that start? Where did that thoughtfulness start in the fandom? I don't think someone just decided to be friendly. I think it sort of all vibed down.
Might be Bridget, Bonnie, and Kevin.
Meaning that through the podcast and through that fan?
Yeah, I think also Emily's interaction from the very beginning with people, because she cares so much about the show and the characters and the subject, and the way that she deals with everybody really kind of resonates. And I think that sort of started it.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty amazing fans.
I ran into Emily twice in the elevator this weekend, and both times I was blubbering fool. I tried to say nothing, but she engaged me in the nicest conversation, and I forgot where I lived. But she did say I look fit, so. All right. You talked about, Jarrett and I had a really nice phone conversation about a week ago, and you mentioned that Wynonna Earp being a genre show might have an influence on audience engagement. Can you talk about why digital media is different for a genre show than it is for a police procedural or something like that?
I mean, the way we always approach these things is to consider our own habits, as we're fans also of TV and movies and music, and so it's like, what do we, how do we react when I watch a police procedural? Do I want to go any deeper? Am I interested? Am I a fan? I might like Law and Order, but I don't need to tweet about it, and I don't need to go find the game and those types of things. Scripted drama tends to be like that. You sort of watch it, maybe you'll go a little deeper. I mean, if it's something like Lost, you might want to start to get into it, but Lost already starts to cross lines. I think genre audiences, whether it's sort of sci-fi or comic book or sort of anything in the genre, there's just a more natural passion there. I think people tend to go deeper. I also think those shows layer up more. I think there's more nuance in characters and more Easter eggy stuff and more things to try, more theorizing and deciphering. I don't think NYPD Blue offers those opportunities. So I think fans who are interested, are passionate people, and gravitate towards a genre thing, find something they can really sink their teeth into. And I think you don't really get that in kids television. You don't really get that in police procedurals and scripted primetime too often. And I think the genre is special that way. And so, I mean, there is no fan con for NYPD Blue, not that I'm aware of, but the genre world has them all over the place.
So like maybe that's the irony of the police procedural. There's no mystery. Everything's solved at the end. But there's mystery here. There's something to be known that we want to know.
And it's also a serialized show. So, NYPD Blue or whatever ends and it's over and that's it. Next episode, next case. But this one, you've got threads that run through a season or through multiple seasons. And so I think there's much more to get interested in and hang on to.
Mm-hmm. I study mostly imaginative education, and there's this idea that when we become literate, we're really engaged by collections and sets. This is like maybe when you're 13 and you have like a Sailor Moon collection, or like I think pretty much every one of us had a collection of something when we were about 10 or 11 or 12. And I think that digital storytelling or transmedia storytelling kind of satisfies that encyclopedic need in us to like know everything there is to know about something. Is it hard though to keep track of this was based on a comic and now here we are in a show and now we have this extra stuff? What's canon? What isn't? Maybe you're just the master of this and it's not even hard for you.
There's spreadsheets. No, I think Emily and I have had conversations about what's canon in the comic books and the TV show and what we do. And I'm trying not to say anything that I'm not allowed to say. But there's things that are happening in the comic books and that aren't happening in the TV show. And so we've kind of got two different worlds. And with us, we sort of play out beside the TV show, but also it plays out on like with the screen stuff as well. So it's important to keep track of like make sure that we don't do something that's like blatantly not true, but we do have a little bit more liberty when we're doing the digital side of things.
I mean, I don't think this problem existed 10 years ago for TV or for films where you have multiple seasons, because without the digital sort of elements there just people weren't adding to canon quite so much from so many different angles. And now you've got it happening a lot. So I think you've got people like Christin who are now becoming expert at maintaining the canon either in their mind or on spreadsheets or both, and track it all, because there's now so many different directions where people are adding to canon.
I did want to talk a little bit. You kind of mentioned you didn't think this was happening 10 years ago. You folks won a Canadian Screen Award 2 years ago. Were nominated for an Emmy as well. Did I say that wrong? You're on twice for season 1 and season 2, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of this type of storytelling and when it started to be recognized? This probably wasn't always an award for this, right?
No. There was, well, yeah. The cross-platform thing, like those sort of like the digital extension thing, has been around for maybe like 15 years, sort of thing. But transmedia as a sort of genre of digital storytelling, I think started to get recognized 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
There was a Producers Guild of America put forth a definition for it. That was sort of the official definition. Which was that a storyline starts on one platform and then continues on multiple other platforms. Mm-hmm. And people sort of did with that definition what they will. But I actually think, I think we talked about this on the phone, is transmedia storytelling goes back to, like, I think about the Beatles, for example, where they've got their songs with hidden messages in them, and then album covers, and then posters, and then theories floating around. And that's all, they're telling one story, but through all these different, but just wasn't described as transmedia storytelling, which is taking advantage of different media platforms. So there's been, just just a show of hands, how many people are interested in taking seeing a thread start on TV and then following it onto online and chasing that sort of multiple platform storytelling? Yeah, so that's maybe half people here. So I think that there's an interest in it, and I think there's a lot of potential with what you can do with it. Mm-hmm. But I also think that at this point, half the room is interested, half the room is not. So it's the kind of thing where if you're going to go into it, you need to make sure that there's going to be an audience for it, because it's a big sort of monstrous beast to deal with.
Yeah, I think transmedia storytelling was coined by Henry Jenkins in 2006 in his book Convergence Culture. He's an Earper. I saw him tweet about it, and it was tweeted in the Mo Ryan article, and Andrus was on his podcast. So I think, everybody knows about him. They're hip to it. It's good. Yeah. Do you wanna? Is it time or not yet?
Sure. We can.
We can.
Okay. So let's talk about season 3. So. We've been listening. I think that's sort of how we got to where we got to. We did what we did in season 1. We did what we did in season 2, and we talked about doing a second Purgatory Case Files for season 2, or for season 3 rather. And we just thought, there was about 10,000 people who sort of joined on board on the Twitter account that we set up for it, and that's a slice of the audience. But we always want to feed we want to engage as many people as possible. So we want to go as broad as possible. So we always look at what people are doing. What are the activities that are happening? We saw the levels of engagement with the things we did sort of creatively, but what we see more and more is that people are online making this kind of stuff, right? And people are on social media accounts making this kind of stuff. And people are also online making this kind of stuff. And there's lots of tools for making this stuff. Some people, I'd say most people probably don't know how to use Photoshop and aren't interested in trying to conquer it. Some people are incredibly skilled at it. But what people seem to want to do around the thing they love is make this kind of stuff and share it with each other, or share it with their friends, use it as a reaction. But what occurred to us is, where are you getting this stuff from? You're probably scraping the internet to find what you can find. Maybe some people are ripping it off the show and putting it up, making little clips and that kind of thing. That takes a lot of work. So what we decided to do for you for season 3 is create what we're calling the Wynonna Earp Fuser. And so this is a tool that, it's a tool that's got on board a meme maker, a GIF maker. It's got some filters for fan art. It's got quotes, and it's got a preset template so you can make your own social media banners and fire them out. But what I think you're really going to like is that it comes with preloaded more GIFs and photos and stickers and Wynonna Earp assets than you'll ever be able to find anywhere else. So we're busily preparing that for you guys right now. Unfortunately, we weren't in time to launch with the beginning of the season. So we're aiming to launch right now, about September 10th, give or take, because it's a brand new thing and we have to test it. Make sure it all works and it's all good for you, and bring all the assets in there and load it up. So, give or take, it'll be web-based. Not sure exactly where you're going to find it just yet. We're still trying to figure out what the URLs are going to be and how it's going to, but I think probably it sounds like the Twitter account will have information about where to find it. And I think you'll start to see these creations popping up in the Twitter thread or the Instagram thread or that kind of thing. That's Fuser, and we hope you guys love it, and we want to see what you make with it. And I think, again, we're making this for you. It's really for you. It's so that you have what you want at your fingertips. You don't have to go scraping and finding low quality pictures or video, and this will be the best quality stuff. And we're currently taking it out of season 1's almost done. We're working our way through season 2. Season 3 is going to get done as well, and the goal is that we'll be releasing that show's content right after the show airs. So you should have that set of gifts, that set of photos, that's whatever it's going to be. The next, you're welcome. Thank you. So this is for you guys, and we want to hear from you because it's brand new. I need to know if there's things that we're missing, if there's assets you'd like to see, if there's a particular moment. There's an email address there at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it. It's Wynonna Earp at fuserapp.com. We want to hear from you. We want you guys to help us make it better for you. And so don't be shy about reaching out. And in fact, I'd love to we're going to do some testing with it before we launch. So if you want to be one of our testers, just fire us an email. And well, I think we're going to take 10 people. It's going to be small, but feel free. And then, yeah, let us know what you're liking, what's not working, what's missing. We want to hear from you guys. So enjoy Fuser when it comes out, and let us know what you think.
Oh man,
cat's out of the bag.
I'm so excited the cat's out of the bag. I kept a secret for like 10 days, which I think is a new record for me. I didn't even tell my wife or my therapist, Patricia.
You had 3 days. I had 3 months to keep this secret.
Well,
Patricia's been working with us secretly. Swore her to silence.
so the yarn texts, were they to bring us to this, or was it that was also just like as you worked on the yarn text, right? And
Yeah, that we had the opportunity to do the yarn text and kind of bridge the 19 weeks that happened between season 2 and season 3.
Yeah.
And so we sort of sat down and thought about all the different stories that we could tell in that timeline that wouldn't be too spoilery, but would be fun and kind of a new way to interact with the Earpers.
And I think kind of like set us up a little bit for us. There was some weird tree stuff in the texts.
I don't know, some weird trees.
All right. Just casual,
Yeah.
weird tree texting, as we all do.
Yeah. You
Did
live in
you-
Vancouver, you know.
I know weird trees. Like, was it fun deciding like how Doc was going to text?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. All of the characters have so much going on in their lives that sometimes we miss the opportunity to see them on screen with those kinds of interactions. Buck's been in a while, and he doesn't. I mean, he's figured out how to work the windshield wipers, which is good. But he probably doesn't know what a group text is. So we wanted to really bring that element of fun into it. And working with Matt Doyle, the other writer, was really fun. And Emily was like, "Okay, give me your ideas," and we both sent like 100 different ideas off to her. So there was a lot of really fun play that we got to do with the characters.
I just want to add that I think I was been reading the yarn text, and I'm so struck by how much I can hear their voices when I'm reading them,
Thank you.
and I think that's just great writing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is there any more of those, or is this our kind of next phase for season 3? Is there more yarn text?
We're not sure at this point. We're still
Sure.
kind of, but we're gearing towards season 4 right now, so we want to make sure that that's kind of our priority. But possibly.
Okay. Have you started pitching other ideas for season 4?
Well, we're going to see what Fuser does.
Yeah.
Because I think if it works for everybody the way we hope it's going to work, I just want to populate it with more assets and just keep it going.
Yeah.
I think it will do that job, and I think the yarn thing is satisfying sort of the additional content piece, like the additional here's more of these characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to go and do a whole. I don't know. We could do another Purgatory Case Files at some point. I guess.
Come on, yeah. I remember you said on the phone with me, if people are a fan of something, they want more of that thing.
That's true.
So I mean, he's got his little catchphrase here. I think we need to stick with it, right?
We'll have to see what we can do.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I did my best. Great. Do we want to do some questions?
Sure.
We're a little bit ahead, but I think that's okay. Do folks have questions? We have t-shirts to give away after. We rolled them up, so hopefully we can throw them further.
I mean, you knew it was. So with the Road to Purgatory and with Purgatory Case Files, I want to hear from both of you. What are some of the lessons learned from Digital Howard's side, like maybe on the technical side, on Christin's side, maybe on the story side, what are some lessons learned that you took from that experience that you're like, forever to do is again something that I have to watch out for?
I mean, on Purgatory Case Files, it was just that I think we could have been a little more elegant with some of the clues that were given out and the way they were given out. But I think, and I mean, the only other thing, which is always our thing, which is try to be more ahead in terms of production, so that we're not, because we were receiving information from the show and then having to process it and release clues like that week, kind of thing. So, but sometimes that's just inevitable because it's when we come into the cycle and where production is at that point, and it's sort of out of our hands. But otherwise, actually, I gotta say, the Winona executions for us, technically, creatively, they were all very smooth. They worked really well in terms of our own working process as a company. So I don't think there's a ton for us.
I think we could have gone deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there was lots and lots and lots that we did, but like seeing the fans react to it, everybody really got what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think we could have gone further into that world.
But we didn't know at the time.
We didn't know at the time, yeah.
And we see people who, again, the broadcast was telling us like, no passwords, don't make it difficult. And then the fans were saying, what's that red bead? You know, so we were like, we did our best to strike that balance, but we didn't know. That's why I think if we did another one, it'd be a lot more challenging. All right, and probably wider and more interesting. We talked about having the game call you back on the phone and have messages and that kind of thing. So we'll see if we get there or not.
Okay, thank you.
My question is for Christin. Since you use Excel so much, do you have any tips and tricks? And I'm not talking about the drop-down menus. I'm talking like secret tricks that you know. Because I know how to use Excel, and I use it a lot, but you use it more than me, and probably no secrets, and I'm asking you a question that you can answer.
Thank you, Kat. Did you know that you can reference a formula, like you can use a formula to reference a different page in Excel? Yeah. Yeah. It's like the best, yeah. So then you can have like a page open and you can go back to the other page and you changed in the other page and then it changes it. I know.
It's a great question.
Yeah. Christin does Excel. All of my formulas would be blanked out though, so you guys couldn't see my secrets.
Oh. On your Twitter, it says keeper of secrets. Is that what they mean?
Yeah. So I know I've been having such great conversations with Earpers this weekend, and at the top of my brain the whole entire weekend is don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. Because I am very fortunate to be in the position where I am, where I know all the things that have happened on screen that you have seen and all the things that have happened in the digital world and how they interact. But also I've had big, long conversations with crew members and cast members and with Emily about what leads to a certain point, what a character's had happen to them in the past, which we haven't revealed and we may not ever reveal. But so everything's kind of locked away up there.
This is a safe place.
Yeah, look it's fine. Just one. How about just one? No.
I like my job.
Okay. All right. Fine. We have another question? No?
So I just saw a really great tweet go out, and it said that the Wynonna Earp Fuser app is a really great example of socialism at work. Because
Agreed.
Canadian socialism, my apologies. Because you're allowing all of this beautiful media that would have taken a long time and lots of resources to make those available for everyone. So with that in mind, and then thinking a little bit more about some of the fan art that's already being made, what were some of the driving forces behind choosing to do it this way? kind of pre-making all of these things and throwing them out into the world, especially in the era of like downloading, illegally all of these files and things like that.
Right. Well, so this is where sort of that reference to the Grateful Dead comes in. I don't know how many sort of know the lore of the Grateful Dead, but way back at a time when recording concerts was illegal and very frowned upon, the Dead made it so that their fans could actually record the shows, and they encouraged them to trade the tapes. And by putting that stuff into the hands of the fans and letting them play, essentially, and the graphics and the logos and the icons and that stuff, they built themselves into one of the most successful touring acts of all time, because they let the fans sort of play in the world of the Grateful Dead. Now, the common approach in media is to keep it all guarded, and I don't want anyone to touch my logo or my brand. But I think that the smart move these days is to because you guys are doing it anyway. It's already happening, right? You're taking that stuff, and so if we facilitate it, if we make it easy for you, then you'll come to it and use it, and I think the quality of output will be higher across the board because you're starting with better looking assets and better quality video. So I think it will just raise what's out there. The whole everything will get kicked up a step. And so it didn't really take much convincing with this team, this crew, to sort of play with let the fans play. There are other shows that are like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to release those things. We want to keep them protected and guard them. And I think there's an element of old world thinking and new world thinking, and what I think should happen to media versus what's really happening to media anyway. And so we prefer to play in that sandbox of let's let people play, and let's give people what they are already. Let's make that behavior easier and better. So awesome. Thank you. That's such a great idea. Thank you. Well, we're really hopeful that you guys use it the way we think. And the truth is, not even the way we think. I'm excited to see what people do that we hadn't even considered, frankly. And for us, the goal is, those buckets of GIF, meme, quotes. Our goal is to be adding more of those buckets. So eventually there'll be many things you can do here, but for now, it's limited to those ones.
It's a universal meme care, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A Canadian joke there. Yes, over here.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of this sort of extra stuff that's been going on and how different they are for the 3 seasons so far. But I was tremendously impressed by the first season, the blog. You're calling it the hot blog or the road to purgatory. And I was wondering if you'd ever be interested in bringing something like that back, which had, it needed sort of a less deep dive into the lore, and it was more of a way of transmitting information instead of solving puzzles, which I thought might work better for some of the more casual fans, whereas, you have things for the dedicated fans, some things for the people who just like to read stuff.
Right.
And also, I am also an Excel maven if anybody needs help with the VLOOKUP.
Maven.
I think that's a great thought in terms of putting something out there that's more broad. So I wouldn't say no to that. I think that's something we could discuss at some point. That wasn't anywhere near as intense as Purgatory Case Files was in terms of creation of it.
I loved it as well. And while we're here, can you tell me what cat, eggplant, flower, plane means?
I really think that's just between Nicole and Waverly.
I do think you're right. Okay, thank you.
It's whatever you want it to mean.
I
The worst answer.
think it means they like each other, you guys. Yeah? Do we have a...
So I've looked into a lot of website design and user interface. What influenced your guys' website design and user interface?
For which iteration?
I was noticing essentially, I had looked into the files, but I hadn't seen some of the other ones, and including backgrounds and the newest beta testing. What influences you?
So for us, because we're working with someone else's IP, so the show is already a thing. They've already got key art done for it. So we always take our cues from the show. So we get the style guide, we look at the logo, we look at sort of whatever artwork they've got, and we draw from that. So because we want to, anything we build, we want it to feel like an extension of the show, not like some other thing. So we want it to feel unified, and that goes all the way down to design, cues, really. So it's really all taken from the art department on the show. And then as far as UX and that kind of thing, that's just our own guiding principle of let's keep it clean and let's make it really, 2 buttons and simple. And we don't want to make a brochure site and overload people. And we both hate terrible design. So we try as much as we can to make it really friendly and really easy. But yeah, design cues in terms of style, palette, those all come directly from the show to us. We just draw those influences.
You switched sides, but we recognize you. You didn't trick us, but all right, we'll allow another one.
Well, first of all, I used to be a teaching assistant at University of Excel, if anyone needs help. And Kat, this one's for you, for the whole panel. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck, or 100 duck-sized horses?
Yeah, you have to fight them.
I have to fight them.
You have to fight them. I don't know why. Everybody.
Duck-sized horse or 100
Yeah,
horse-sized
they're hangry, I think.
They're hangry? They're hangry ducks?
Yes. Or a giant
Yeah,
or a horse-sized duck.
I'm going to the Emily Andrus gym for kicking small horses. Yeah, that's time.
I'm solidly in the duck category.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
just
duck-sized
one.
horse?
It's
a horse-sized duck
or 100
duck-sized horses.
Yeah.
I think I'd go with the one.
Yes.
The one. Yeah, I could see being totally overrun by 100 of anything. So, especially if they're hangry.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. Is there like a real dividing line on this question?
Yes.
Okay, so hands up for the horse, duck-sized horse.
Wait, what?
Horse-sized duck. Horse-sized duck.
Horse-sized duck. I
Okay,
think
hands
that's-
up for 100 duck-sized horses. That's actually pretty even.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's,
evenly divided.
There's
Wow.
there's a poll online and it's pretty even.
Yeah, I actually read that. But I didn't realize it was this much.
It's a serious question.
All right.
Hello. I feel like really close to y'all. So first off, putting an idea out there, Christin Excel's workshop sounds like a great idea. But my question is, what advice would you have for people who are interested in getting into the digital storytelling platform?
Well, it sort of depends on how you want to come at it. If you want to sort of create a blog or, do something sort of like do your own sort of thing around Winona or sort of like that, you can just sort of start. That's the thing about digital is you just sort of do it. Because there's really no barriers. And that's what's so beautiful about it. You can make video, you can make a blog. I think Yarn's a platform you can jump onto and do. So there's all these, and there's starting to be more and more tools like Yarn and sort of future type things where they're more set up for you to go in and make your own thing. So I think if you want to get into it sort of for fun, there's all those ways. If you want to get into it professionally, is that sort of what you're thinking about? Then I think it's worth doing a few of those on your own just to play and be sort of literate in how they're made and that kind of thing. And then just start looking for companies like ours that make the stuff. And there's not a ton of them in Canada. There are I think more in Canada. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're everywhere, Canada, US. But yeah, just start reaching out to them and come in. The best way to come in is like as a, an asset coordinator, a coordinator manager or something. So you can see how the shop is run and how things get done, sort of the processes. But it is a lot like making TV in terms of the hierarchy of who does what. There's just more moving parts, I think. That'd be accurate.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing about storytelling is that everybody is a storyteller. Whether it's the grocery list that you write or, the story that you tell your friends about the person who you met on the subway, if you can just start telling stories in a more organized fashion. And like Emily says, you're not going to be good when you start out, but you have to start and you have to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So just keep writing and just keep telling stories. And whether that's through writing or if it's through photography or crafting or any other form, just keep telling stories.
And the other thing I'd say is there's a lot of like newsletters that report on, this type of digital, like things that are being made in AR, VR, or things that are being made in Transmedia. So you can read you can subscribe to some of those things and just read what people are making. And that often will give you an idea to jump off into something of your own. I can make this type of thing or that type of thing. It's just great. There's such a breadth of types of digital storytelling that can be done today. So it's interesting to try and hone in on the things that are, the methods that are interesting, and then go for them.
I think we have time for one last question.
Awesome. Oh my God, I'm actually the only tall person here.
Oh. The microphone.
Yeah, I'll be like. Okay, so I did not know you were the one who was running the Wynonna Earp account, because I'm totally going to make fun of you right now. So I remember there was a time when the account asked for everybody to send in their favorite fanfics, and you were retweeting them like crazy. And then I noticed people were like sending you like booze fanfics, which are totally not safe for work. And then I noticed you started deleting all those. Did Emily or somebody like say, oh, hey, that's, don't do that?
Yeah, it just started to get to, like, I think fanfic is great. I mean, everybody loves it, I think, all the way up to the top. But I think when that started to happen, it just was off for this fandom, in a way. You know what I mean? Like, it just
I don't
wasn't.
think you know the fandom.
Well, but there's with the fandom, and then there's the sort of the public-facing versions of the fandom. And it just didn't seem like it fit with everything else that was going on.
Thought you got your hand caught in the cookie jar. Oh, well, it was still
No,
good.
we did not. There was not really that kind of thing. It just didn't belong.
No slap on the wrist. I want to thank you guys so much for coming here today. This was great. I also, before we do nice clapping, before I thank you again, I want to give a special shout out to all the ACON folks, because we would just not be here without them. And they're so busy that probably you shouldn't stop them and tell them how much you love them, but you maybe could yell it from afar. It's a lot of work, and I think it's been going really well, and it's a thankless job, but let's do our part to stop that. So thank them. That's Mallory back there, and it's her birthday today. So if you see her, say happy birthday. Okay, there we go. That was my wifely duty. But no, you guys, sincerely, truly, I've had such a nice time talking to you. And in preparation for this, I've been reading about it a lot and thinking about it a lot, and I've just enjoyed it so much. So I feel like I'm really excited, I think, for the new democracy, or maybe sneaky socialism that this new thing is going to bring. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having us, and thanks to the organizers. And I've never really, the way this thing has been run from top to bottom has been incredible. So shout out to Mallory and the team, amazing. And yeah, please send us an email and use it and tell us what you like, and we'll look forward to hearing from you guys in season 3.
And thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Oh, we have to throw shirts. Yeah, we got to throw shirts at the.
Okay, yesterday I was like twirling them and I'm throwing them like boomerangs. And it was like, here, hold on. You're good.
Yeah, that was fun.
You're a natural.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing my kids.
Yeah. She's super cranky on the way here. I think she's okay now.
Oh, yeah, now she's super right when she's playing the game. We didn't hardly. We went in to watch the baseball game, and after we went here doing the panel. Oh, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, but we're going into town for hopefully Malcolm get away for a birthday.